Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today, we will continue following the heartbreaking love story and seemingly insurmountable challenges of the single mother, Liha. In the previous episode, we witnessed the nerve-wracking moment when Hoai, out of worry for Hung, the man who was gravely ill and bedridden in the hospital, did not hesitate to return to her old house in hopes of finding some clue that might help Hung recover in peace. But no one could have imagined that this very decision would drag Hoai into a brand new nightmare. Because in that place where she thought she had left all her painful memories behind, Hung's mother, the woman who once turned her life upside down, suddenly appeared. After months of evading the police, she quietly returned. Not to hide, but to seek revenge on Hoai, who she believes is the reason her family was torn apart. Inside the old house, the dark, damp air felt suffocating. Before Hoai could react, the woman's sinewy hand grabbed her tightly. There was no trace of kindness left in her eyes, only deep, burning hatred. Hoai struggled, her heart pounding wildly in her chest, but her strength was no match for the furious force of this woman. Meanwhile, at the hospital, Hung had no idea what was happening. He remained there, his frail body confined to the bed, but his mind was consumed with worry for Hoai. With every passing minute, his unease grew like a relentless tide. He called her again and again, but all he heard were cold, unending beeps. No answer. No messages. And then, the dread began to set in. Back at the house, Hoai was facing the greatest fear of her life. Hung's mother was no longer the woman he had once spoken of. She had changed, twisted by days of running and hiding. Her eyes burned with resentment, and her raspy voice cut through the air like a blade. Hoai, I finally found you. Those words pierced straight into Hoai's heart like a cold, sharp dagger. She trembled, but she forced herself to stay calm. She knew that if she showed any fear, it would only fuel the woman's rage. In that hair-raising moment, Hoai could only pray that someone would come, pray that Hung would somehow find out, pray that fate wouldn't be cruel enough to abandon her. And at that very moment, the tension reached its peak. Will someone make it in time to save Hoai? Or will she be forced to face this merciless woman alone? Everything will be revealed in today's video. Don't blink, not even for a second, because if you miss even the smallest detail, you won't believe what's about to happen next. During his days in the hospital, Hung couldn't find a moment of peace. The sterile white walls, the overpowering smell of disinfectant, none of it could quiet the unease gnawing at his heart. Though the doctors and nurses reassured him repeatedly that a few more days of rest would stabilize his condition, it felt as though an invisible hand was squeezing his chest, each heartbeat growing heavier and more suffocating. He clutched his phone constantly. Over and over, he dialed Hoai's number. And every single time, all he heard was that cold, endless dial tone, echoing through the silent room as if mocking him. No messages. No answered calls. The sense of dread wrapped around him like an invisible chain, tightening with every passing second, leaving Hung unable to remain still. Finally, he couldn't bear it any longer. His face pale, his voice hoarse from illness, Hung pressed a number he could trust, his most dependable friend. When the call connected, Ha's anxious voice came through immediately. Hung? Why do you sound so weak? Where are you? Hung drew in a shaky breath, his voice trembling with urgency. I'm at the hospital. I got worse suddenly, had to be admitted before I could tell Hoai anything. Please tell her for me, let her know I just need a few more days of treatment. I don't want her to worry. Ha paused for a brief second, then asked sharply. Have you tried calling her? I did, so many times, but she won't pick up, Hung replied, his grip on the phone tightening until his knuckles turned white. Ha furrowed her brows, sifting through her memory, until suddenly, her eyes widened as if she had just remembered something critical. Wait. This morning, Hoai told me she was going back to the old house. She said she wanted to check on the garden, the animals, and also, to look for clues about you. Don't tell me. The moment Hung heard that, his whole world spun. He nearly pushed himself off the hospital bed, his eyes bloodshot with fear. Huh. You have to go, now. Find her. Don't waste a second. I have a bad feeling. And if you see her, tell her I'm in the hospital. Just 1 or 2 more days. I'll come back. His voice was trembling, frantic, like a man clinging to his last shred of strength, begging with everything he had left. Ha bit her lip, then nodded firmly even though he couldn't see her. All right. Don't worry. I'll go right away. Without another word, Ha grabbed her things and rushed out. Inside her chest, worry for Hoai surged like a storm. Meanwhile, Hung could only lie there, staring at the blindingly white ceiling, his hands trembling helplessly as he prayed that Ha would reach her before everything spiraled out of control. The path leading to the old house was pitch dark and eerily silent, as if it were cut off from the rest of the world. The wind howled through the rows of barren trees, making Ha's heart pound faster and faster. As she approached, faint but chaotic sounds reached her ears, hoarse screams, the weak cries of a woman, and the clattering of objects colliding inside the otherwise quiet house. Without a second thought, Ha shoved open the decayed wooden door and rushed in. What she saw froze her in place. Hung's mother, her face gaunt but her eyes blazing with hatred, was yanking Hoai's hair with all her strength. She pulled so viciously, as if she wanted to unleash all the anger she had bottled up for years onto the helpless young woman. Hoai, pale and tear-streaked, didn't resist. She only pleaded in a trembling voice. Please, ma'am, let go. We can talk this out calmly. But her pleas only seemed to fan the flames of the older woman's rage. Hung's mother roared, her voice echoing through the old house. Shut up. This is all your fault. If it weren't for you, Hung would never have turned against me. You turned him into an ungrateful son. With each word, she jerked Hoai's hair even harder, nearly forcing her to her knees. Unable to watch any longer, Ha sprang forward, grabbing Hung's mother and forcefully pulling her away from Hoai. It took every ounce of strength she had, but finally, Ha managed to drag Hoai back and shield her behind her own body. Yet, Hung's mother didn't stop. Her face flushed with rage, her eyes burned with such fury it was as if she wanted to reduce Hoai to ashes. She screamed in a frenzied voice. If you don't leave him, I swear I'll kill you. Or I'll kill myself in front of Hung. I'll make him live with the guilt of loving a woman like you for the rest of his life. Those venomous words were like icy knives stabbing straight into Hoai's heart. She trembled, tears streaming down her face. Ha stood firmly in front of her, her voice unwavering. Ma'am, that's enough. Stop it. Don't do this to her. But Hung's mother wouldn't listen. She shrieked, thrashing violently, trying to break free from Ha's grip to attack Hoai again. Her eyes were wild, devoid of reason, consumed entirely by blind hatred. Hoai stumbled backward, her legs trembling, her heart feeling as if it were being crushed. Those threats echoed in her mind, each word, each sound, shredding the last fragments of courage she had left. In the middle of the suffocating tension inside the old house, Ha knew that if this continued any longer, something terrible would happen. He immediately pulled out his phone, his voice sharp and unwavering. If you don't stop, I'll call the police right now. The moment she heard the word police, Hung's mother froze. A flicker of fear flashed in her eyes, but it was quickly replaced by blazing fury. She stepped back, glaring at Hoai as if trying to etch her face deep into her memory. Then, without another word, she spun around and bolted out the door, her frail figure vanishing into the darkness. Ha remained standing there, phone clutched tightly in his hand, sweat dripping down his forehead. He was about to dial the police when a weak hand tugged at him. It was Hoai. Her face was pale, her eyes red and swollen, but her voice was calm, almost pleading. Ha, don't call the police. Ha froze, staring at her in disbelief. Are you out of your mind? If we don't stop her now, what if she comes back? Hoai slowly shook her head, her trembling voice laced with determination. She's still Hung's mother. If the police arrest her now, she'll face additional charges for assault. If that happens, she'll never have a way back. Let her turn herself in. At least that way. Hung can still forgive her one day. Ha fell silent, his fists clenched tightly, his expression torn. He knew calling the police was the logical thing to do. But when he looked at Hoai's pale face, still filled with compassion despite everything, he found himself unable to argue. Later, when Ha recounted everything over the phone, Hung, still lying weak in his hospital bed, remained silent for a long moment. He finally closed his eyes, his voice breaking. She's right. Ha, don't call the police. Give my mother one last chance. Ha exhaled slowly, nodding in reluctant acceptance. He helped Hoai to her feet, her hands still trembling from what had just happened. He guided her out of the old house, leaving behind the dusty air and the haunting scene that would not easily fade. On the way back, neither of them spoke a word. The cold night wind howled against the car windows. Hoai sat quietly, staring blankly into the darkness outside. Ha glanced at her through the rearview mirror, as if wanting to say something, but in the end, he stayed silent. In that moment, both of them knew, this was far from over. Ha glanced at Hoai through the rearview mirror. She sat in the passenger seat, her frail shoulders trembling slightly in the heavy silence. Her eyes, void of any spark of life, stared blankly out the window into the darkness, where rows of trees slipped by like shadowy, ghostly figures. Ha knew, she was carrying far too much pain. And that very thought twisted his heart in agony. Seeing the woman he secretly loved endure such suffering made him feel a crushing sense of helplessness. In that moment, he couldn't stop blaming himself. If only he hadn't let her go back to that old house alone. If only he had gone with her, or better yet, if only he had stopped her altogether, maybe none of this would have happened. He gripped the steering wheel tighter, his knuckles turning white. Thoughts pounded in his head like relentless waves crashing against the shore. I should have been there. I should never have let her face all of this alone. Ha stole another glance at Hoai. Her face was pale, her eyes swollen from tears, yet she held herself together, refusing to show even a shred of weakness. She remained silent, so silent it felt like it was choking the air around him. He wanted to say something, a word of comfort, a promise that he would protect her, but nothing came out. Because Ha understood all too well, no words could erase what she had just endured. So, he simply drove on, his heart quietly vowing, no matter what happens, he would never let her go through this again. In the darkness, the car rolled forward, carrying two wounded souls, each scar too deep to be spoken aloud. That night, when they finally returned home, Hoai looked completely drained. Her whole body felt weak, and her tired eyes seemed as if they had just come out of an endless nightmare. As soon as she stepped into the house, she had no strength left to say anything more. She simply gave Ha a faint nod of gratitude before quietly retreating to her room to rest. But just before she closed the door, Hoai paused. She turned her head slightly toward Ha, her voice soft and frail, yet carrying an unusual firmness. Ha, please, don't tell Hung, and don't tell anyone else about what happened today, about me meeting his mother. Ha froze for a moment. He couldn't believe that after everything, after nearly losing her life at the hands of that woman, Hoai still chose to keep it all hidden. Why? You know how dangerous she is. Ha almost blurted out. Hoai only shook her head lightly. Her eyes shimmered with unshed tears, but she forced a faint, weary smile. I know, but if Hung finds out, it'll break his heart. And I don't want his mother to be pushed to the edge. No matter what, she's still his mother. If she gets charged with assault now, she'll have no way back. I just want to give her a chance to come to her senses and turn herself in. Only then will Hung be able to forgive her. Hearing those words, Ha stood in silence for a long time. A knot of emotion swelled in his chest, leaving him breathless. He always knew Hoai was kind, but this level of compassion, it was beyond anything he could have imagined. She had endured so much pain, and yet she still chose forgiveness, still chose to protect others, even if it meant hiding the truth. Ha looked at her, his gaze filled with both sorrow and admiration. In that moment, all he wanted to say was, "You don't deserve to go through any of this." But he didn't. He knew Hoai didn't need pity, she needed someone who would silently stand by her side and protect her. Finally, Ha nodded, his voice low but resolute. All right. I promise you. I won't tell Hung, and I won't tell anyone else. But Hoai from now on, I won't let you face any of this alone ever again. Hoai gave him a faint smile, one so fragile it almost broke his heart. She simply nodded without saying another word. The door quietly closed, leaving Ha standing outside with a heavy heart. He had never met a girl so strong and so kind, and that only made him more determined to stay by her side and protect her no matter what. Inside her quiet room, Hoai sat down on her bed. Her eyes were heavy with exhaustion, but deep within her heart flickered a small, fragile hope that Hung's mother would truly change, and one day, peace would finally return. That night, Hoai room was swallowed in darkness. The soft, dim glow of the bedside lamp cast a faint light across her pale face. She lay there, eyes wide open, staring blankly at the ceiling, her mind drifting through the haunting memories and piercing words that still echoed within her. Every single word from Hung's mother reverberated in her head, each one like a cold blade cutting deeper into her heart. If you don't leave him, I'll die in front of Hung. I'll make him live the rest of his life drowning in guilt for loving a woman like you. Hoai shuddered. Her trembling hands clutched her chest, as if trying to hold her heart together before it shattered under the crushing weight of pain. Through tear-filled eyes, Hung's image surfaced in her mind, lying in that hospital bed, weak and exhausted, yet still only worrying about her. Maybe I was wrong, Hoai whispered to herself. She felt as if she was the root of all this misery. If she hadn't been with Hung, maybe he wouldn't have to bear this cruel choice between his mother and the woman he loved. If she left, perhaps Hung could return to the peaceful life of a devoted son. The more she thought about it, the sharper the ache in her heart became. Silent tears spilled onto her pillow, soaking it with despair. The memory of Hung's mother's threat replayed in her mind, and the horrifying thought of that woman using her own life to bind Hung in eternal guilt made Hoai tremble in fear. No. She couldn't let that happen. And in that moment, Hoai made the hardest decision of her life: she would leave Hung. She knew it would shatter them both. she knew it would break Hung's heart. But if stepping away could give him peace, if it could free him from this torment, then she would bear the pain alone. At least this way, he wouldn't be torn apart between love and filial duty. Hoai shut her eyes tightly as more tears streamed down. Her heart screamed against this decision, but her mind, cold and merciless, forced her to accept it. For you. I'll let go, she whispered into the darkness, her voice so faint it nearly vanished into the void. Outside the window, the night wind slipped through the cracks, carrying with it a bitter chill, as if the world itself was mourning with her. The next morning, as the gentle sunlight spread across the hillside, Hoai and Ha went back to the fields together. The air was calm, filled only with the distant chirping of birds and the soft rustling of leaves in the breeze. Yet, within Hoai's heart, that very peace only deepened her sense of loneliness and emptiness. While they worked in silence, Ha stole a glance at her. He saw it clearly, her eyes no longer held the same light as before. All that remained was a quiet exhaustion she couldn't hide. He knew she was trying to be strong, but inside, she was a wounded soul barely holding on. Finally, Ha spoke. Hoai, if something's weighing on you, you can tell me. I can't stand watching you bear it all alone in silence anymore. Hoai froze. She stood there for a long moment, her hands trembling from how tightly she was clenching them. Then, slowly, she lifted her gaze to Ha. And in that instant, the tears she had fought so hard to hold back since last night finally spilled over. I think it's time for me to leave Hung, Ha, her voice broke as she spoke. Ha was stunned into silence. He didn't ask why, because in her eyes, he already saw the answer. Hoai stared off into the distance, her voice trembling but resolute. Being with Hung only hurts us both. He will never be able to choose filial duty as long as I'm here. I don't want to keep tearing him apart like this. If we go on like this, one day, we'll both regret it. I just want a peaceful life, Ha. A life without this constant pressure, without watching the man I love suffer because of me. Ha clenched his fists tightly. Every word she spoke was like a blade twisting in his chest. He knew how deeply Hoai loved Hung, but her love was so selfless, so great, that she was willing to sacrifice her own happiness for his sake. Ha took a step closer, locking eyes with Hoai's tear-filled gaze. His voice was deep, steady, but gentle. If that's really what you've decided, then give me a chance. I know I can't replace Hung in your heart, but I can protect you. I promise, Hoai, no matter what happens, I will never hurt you. Hoai's breath hitched. She looked at Ha, surprise flickering in her weary eyes. For a moment, she didn't know whether to cry or to smile. Instead, she simply lowered her head, letting her tears fall freely, because she realized that no matter what the future held, there was still someone willing to stand by her side, silently protecting her without asking for anything in return. And in that quiet moment, beneath the soft rays of sunlight over the fields, a decision was made, one that could change everything. Today, Hoai continued to reject all of Hung's calls. No matter how many times he dialed her number, the phone only answered him with the cold, empty sound of an endless dial tone. No replies. No explanations. The gnawing anxiety in Hung's chest crashed over him like relentless waves, making it almost impossible to breathe. In the stark white hospital room, Hung sat propped up against the bed, his eyes sunken from sleepless nights. He stared at his phone screen over and over, clinging to the desperate hope that some miracle might happen, that Hoai would call him back, or at the very least, send him a short message. Anything, just enough to ease his heart. But all he got was silence. A silence so heavy it felt suffocating. Restless and consumed by worry, Hung nearly begged the doctor to discharge him so he could go home and find her. But the doctor was firm, warning him that if he left too soon, his condition could worsen. Left with no choice, Hung swallowed his anxiety and stayed in the hospital, his body under treatment while his heart remained in agony. No medicine could soothe what he felt. His mind was consumed by fear for Hoai. He was terrified something bad might have happened to her, terrified that ghosts from the past, especially his mother, might once again bring her pain. And when he thought of his mother, the heaviness in his chest only deepened. How long had it been since he last knew where she was, or if she was even alive? Did she regret everything and turn herself in, as he once wished? Or was she still out there, lost and running in hopeless desperation? Questions without answers, hanging over him like a crushing weight he could never escape. As if that wasn't enough, the mountain of debt pressing down on him felt like invisible chains, dragging him deeper into despair. Every time he thought of that debt, it was as though a hand tightened around his throat, stealing his breath. He was exhausted, battling his illness, the financial burden, and the heartbreak of a shattered family. In that moment, Hung closed his eyes, gripping the hospital blanket tightly in his trembling hand. All he wished for was to turn back time, to those quiet days when Hoai's smile was always beside him, when his mother's embrace was still warm, when debts hadn't yet pulled him into this abyss. But now, all of it was nothing more than a distant dream. He didn't know what to do anymore. He didn't know where to begin to save himself, or the people he loved. All Hung could do now, was pray. Pray for time to pass faster, pray for the day he could finally leave the hospital, so he could run to Hoai, and at the very least, hold her in his arms once more. Tonight, as everything seems to have quieted down, far too many questions remain unanswered. After everything she's been through, will Hoai truly find the courage to leave Hung, the man she loves so deeply, in order to choose the peace she's longed for? Or will her heart waver once more in the face of his love and unwavering efforts? And what about Ha, the man who has silently stood behind her, protecting her through the darkest days? Will he ever be able to take Hung's place and become the steady shoulder she needs? Or is he destined to remain only an outsider, watching her shed tears for a love that may never be whole? As for Hung's mother, a woman consumed by hatred and despair, will she keep running, or will she finally find the strength to turn herself in? Does she still have a chance to return to her son's side, or will she only deepen the rift between them? And Hung, when his days in the hospital come to an end, when he returns home and is forced to face the reality that Hoai is slipping away from him, what will he do? Will he fight to hold on to her, or will he let go, broken-hearted? All of this lingers in the air like a storm waiting to break. So, will Hoai truly leave Hung and choose Ha instead? Will Hung's mother return, or vanish deeper into the shadows? And what will happen to Hung, when he realizes that Hoai's heart is drifting further and further away? All these questions will be answered in the next episode. Stay tuned, because this story is only just beginning.
Xin chào tất cả mọi người đã quay trở lại với kênh của mình. Hôm nay thì mình tiếp tục đưa mọi người đến với câu chuyện của mẹ đơn thân lythuca. Như mọi người cũng đã biết thì trong tập này một diễn biến kiểu nó vô cùng bất ngờ đã diễn ra. Đó là Hoai ca với lại Hùng. Hoai ca đang rơi vào cái tình thế là tiến thoái lưỡng nan khi mẹ của Hùng, bà đang bị truy nã mà bà vẫn đến tìm Hoai ca để muốn dạng như trả thù cô ấy. Vì tất cả những mọi chuyện đã xảy ra, bà ấy đều đổ tội cho cô ấy mà bà không nhận thức được tất cả mọi chuyện đều là do bà ấy mà ra. Vậy thì liệu Hoai ca sẽ xử lý như thế nào trước những lời đe dọa giống như là tối hậu thư của mẹ Hùng? Và liệu cô đang quyết định từ bỏ Hùng thì cô có thể từ bỏ anh ấy không? Và Hà thì thấy Hoai ca đang từ bỏ Hùng thì muốn ở bên cạnh cô ấy để an ủi chia sẻ. Vậy thì diễn biến câu chuyện tiếp theo sẽ như thế nào? Mời mọi người đón xem vào tập sau nha.